Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to AM Live for the opportunity to have that conversation together. We will be together for about 45 minutes, and we'll try to make it as interactive as possible. So we'll take a few questions as we discuss, and we've got time at the end as well. So we're here together to debate on the very important topic of customer experience. And I'm Boris Huard, Chief Executive of Citnow, and I'm joined by a very rich and expert panel that I will introduce in a few minutes. Today, we're going to discuss about the strategic impact that customer experience has on our organizations, and we're going to explore some of the levers around technology, people, processes, culture, and how can we create loyalty and ultimately long-time value creation. So I think for all of us in the room, there's no debate why customer experience matters. So maybe I would like to call out 2 or 3 things. The first one, it's complex. So let's face it, we have to take it very seriously. There's lots of emotion where consumers engage with their car. It's a product that is highly attractive. It's also a product that is relatively expensive. So a lot of the consumer will be drawn to the product they can afford versus the product they really, really want. That's just the majority of us. So creating very positive experience matters for creating that loyalty and capturing the mind and the heart of our customers. 2 things to call out, it's worth it. If you look at the scale of the prize, when we get it right, it's significant. If you look at some of management reporting, there's some good nuggets sometimes in those, and more often than not, and 80%, I was quoting in one of those, 80% of the value created in the top performing company come from their existing customers. If you look at things a bit more pragmatic, there was a post on LinkedIn a few days ago from Airbnb. They've introduced real-time resolution of all of the issues at the point of booking. They reduced complaints by 25%. They've increased conversion by 18%. So the scale is significant, it's worth it. The second one I would like to call out is urgency. There's a very good survey from Motors that was published, I think, 24th of October, so it's very recent, you can access it. They studied thousands of consumers. And one key stat, if not attended in 6 hours, if not responded in 6 hours, people will move probably to another dealer. So 2 things to call out. It's big, it's worth it, but also there's a degree of urgency. So no pressure, challenge accepted. And that's why I'm really delighted to be joined by an expert panel. So please join me in introducing Jamie Nash. Jamie is leading business systems for Group 1 and has been at the forehead of one of the largest integration over the past 6 months across processes and applications, and 20 years in the industry working for OEM agency, and now one of the top 5 dealer group in the country. Sorry. Alex Rose, National Operations Manager for Omoda Jaecoo. Everything related to sales and retention strategy is for Alex, so a very busy person, a very successful person over the past 18 months. And I think will share with us a very interesting perspective from the dynamic of first experience of customers meeting a new product. So thank you, Alex. Monique Limerick, joining from Vine Groups, one of the family-owned business and a top performer in the BMW franchise, consistent top performer. And Monique is bringing a very, very forward-looking approach to CRM and marketing to ensure that every customer of Vine's group can live and feel the value of this family-owned organization. And Tony Sciascia is joining us with a very interesting life story, 40 years, from going through the ranks to leading a dealership to owning the dealership, pivoting from losing your major OEM but creating a new group, multi-franchise, independent in Wales, and multi-award winning for customer excellence. So I feel very relaxed that I'm able to rely on that expertise and bring to life very, very relevant topics. So maybe if we start by the impact, what are the strategic improvement, what are the successes that each of you can already claim? And maybe starting with you, Alex, how do you look at customer experience to make sure that your new consumers, your new customers are impacting day one and you can build that trust with them?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me.
No, right?
We obviously started from scratch just over a year ago. And with a small team and a million things to do, we had to be really ruthless with our prioritization and really honest with ourselves about what we realistically had the capacity to achieve. And it became clear from a customer experience perspective that the most important things for us was to address the fact that customers hadn't heard of us, and they'd never seen our cars before. So we gave our teams the guidance and the retailers that every interaction had to really focus on explaining the brand, explaining the history of the brand, and spending more time than usual explaining our product, really. Since then, we've layered it with more traditional customer experience stuff, and we've aligned our metrics accordingly. But those two elements are priorities to begin with for us.
Thank you very much, Alex. And maybe if we continue and making sure that every customer that Vine groups can live and breathe the family values of your organization. Monique, how do you go about this?
Well, I guess for us as a business, hopefully how customers experience us is that actually we're good people to do business with. As Boris said, we're one of the few remaining family-owned businesses down in the south for the BMW franchise, and we're surrounded by a lot of big PLC groups. So, and one of them are on our panel today. But it's a really hyper-competitive environment, as you can imagine, and I'm sure you can all echo that sentiment. So for us, how we want to differentiate ourselves is simply through our Vine's values and our culture. We don't just see that as a tick box experience to kind of support that customer journey, but actually it's about living and breathing that in our day-to-day to really enhance the customer experience. I think for us, really, it's been really telling this year. Our franchise business has transitioned to agency sales model. So when price is no longer on the table as a differentiator, hey, we need to lean into that customer experience, and that's through our Vine's values. I guess for us as a business, how do we know if we're actually delivering on that? It's all very well saying that. But for us, I think for me, that touch and feel of what our online reputation looks like, perhaps on Google, is really telling. It's that mirror to see if actually we're delivering on those values. And there's some really great kind of results that we're seeing within our teams. All the comments about our personal attention to detail, our values shining through with our people. And our teams are achieving, on average, a 4.8 Google star rating every single month as a business. And for us, that really excites us. One, it's driving those Google algorithms to drive more customers to us as a business, but actually it's a really clear indicator to us if we're living by our Vine's values, and will demonstrate to us if we've got a propensity to retain those customers in the long run. So, customers are our lifeblood at Vines, and for us, actually, it's about treating them like family and looking after them.
Thank you, Monique. And I think through what you presented, there's a lot of focus as well, and same for you, Alex. But maybe if we move to Jamie, how can you translate that at large scale, and how do you impact consistent experience across a very large organization like yours?
I think it's difficult at scale, just because of the nature of it. I think what you have to get to is simplicity. So if we focus on the mindset of positive team, positive interaction with customers drives customer satisfaction. So when I look at, from a system point of view, how do we enhance those journeys? And it's being clear with those visions. So we look at some simple things of reduce the number of systems that our teams need to use, reduce the number of keystrokes, allow customers to transact the way that they want to. And any technology that we introduce should enhance that human interaction, and we believe that will drive that customer satisfaction. When you look at scale, and I was thinking about this today, it's easy to convince one person that a bad system is great. You can't do that with 500 people, 1,000 people. So anything you introduce has to fix a real problem. And in order to do that, you have to understand the stores and you have to understand the customers. So that is around listening to customers, whether that's through surveys, whether that's through watching them on sites and how they go through that journey. But most importantly, sitting down with our stores and understanding what their problems are. Fix those issues. There's no good sitting in our office going, here's a vanity project, wouldn't this be great? If it doesn't fix a problem on the ground, it's never going to work and it's never going to deliver the right thing.
Thank you very much. And on your side, Tony, I think when we were discussing in preparation, you said good experience is important, but it's not enough. Great experience has to be the bar. How do you go about it with Celtic?
Yeah, I mean, as a small independent franchise dealer, we needed to differentiate from the rest of the competition because we don't have all the support and clout of the bigger groups, perhaps, and we had to find how to differentiate from the competition in our area. And customer service was the obvious one to look for, really. A, because it's cheap. You don't have to invest a ton of money in delivering good service. And what we discovered was that good isn't good enough, because customers only remember you if you give very, very good service or very, very bad service. The majority of customers sit somewhere in between there. So how do you want them to remember you and keep returning? And what we've done is we embarked on a program of saying to the team that, good isn't good enough anymore. We've got to be better. We've got to be great. And we've empowered our team to make decisions at grassroots level. So we don't have to keep escalating any kind of decision making up the line in any way. They're empowered to make a decision quickly. And that's the key, really, for a lot of customers. They want to know what can be done, can it be done now, and they want decisions to be made. And we've just found that by having that system in place, it's kind of really, really helped not only our customers, because they seem to be happy, they keep coming back, but also the team. They feel happier as well, because they feel that they've got the power in their hands to deliver good service. And most people want to do that, no matter what kind of job they're in. They want to do the best for themselves as well. So it's kind of worked for us, and that's been the main differentiator for us, I think, to start off with.
And recognized, and congratulations again with the awards sanctioning your great customer service.
We got recognized
exactly.
for that, so yeah, so that was a bonus.
So I think we've probably here covered some very tangible outcomes that each of our panelists have achieved in their organizations. If we explore some of the levers that we've talked about, I think for us the opportunity is how can we describe what you've achieved probably on the more modest scale to the scale that Jamie was talking about, How can we make sure that this is consistent for every single of the customers and every single people who would join across all franchise, all of the rooftop? So maybe exploring a little bit the role of technology as an enabler, probably, not a replacement, to frame some of what we're about to discuss. And I don't think the challenge here is a lack of technology. If you look at the ecosystem of a dealer group, there's quite a lot of technology, probably, arguably, sometimes too many different technologies. And what is the opportunity to integrate all of these systems, to simplify all of these systems? And if I speak from a Citnow point of view and observing what our customers have done in the first part of 2025 and continuing in the second part of 2025 is a lot of simplification, consolidation, rationalization of their systems to simply, yes, lower probably the cost of ownership, but most importantly, focus on the CRM layer and the impact that has on their consumers. So continuing on the theme of how do we leverage technology and how do we make it work for customer satisfaction, I'll turn to you, Jamie. And if you could share a little bit of insight, because you've embarked in probably the largest integration program in the country in 2025.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I said earlier around simplifying that journey and removing friction. I think the difficulty we have with the industry we operate in is where that customer expectation is. So look at a service customer as an example. No one looks forward to their service being due, and no one's delighted that light's come on. So for us, from an expectation point of view, it's understanding where a customer is. And also then looking at purchasing a vehicle. That's an exciting process, whether that's a new vehicle or whether that's a used vehicle. So the customer's expectations are high. However, the buying journey and the process has friction levels that a customer wouldn't expect. Mm-hmm. So really it's around understanding where that customer expectation is and trying to delight them all the way through. I said around that human interaction, and it's wherever we can enhance. So this goes back to really setting a high level for the customer in terms of ease of use, speed of use, so that when our service customers or our sales customers are in our showroom, that's high quality interaction from a human point of view. So that may be around using RPA to reduce admin, using automation to move data through systems so a customer's not having to go through the same journey. Look, we've got these processes and systems for a reason. It's how do we make that easier for that customer?
have you measured some of those outcomes as you've completed integration?
Yeah, look, we've been on this journey certainly for the last 5 years, and it's that speed through. And what we know is, on average, we had 10 systems to go through, whether that's sales and across sales and service, and that number's 10 today. And look, we've got to keep reducing it down. And it's believing that the easier it is for that customer, the higher or the better the experience is going to be.
Thank you. So working for you and work in progress and accelerating is probably the message here.
Yeah.
If we look at, I mentioned in introduction, a very forward-looking approach from Monique and engagement with marketing and CRM, and maybe give credit to all of us in the panel. We haven't used the word AI for the first 15 minutes of the conversation, but it is coming and it is important. So I think, Monique, you have some very interesting use cases and successes that you have delivered using the word AI, yeah? And all of this technology.
Yeah, we do. We've been on a bit of a journey with AI. We introduced it in our business about 5 years ago, running alongside automation, which still remains today. But for us, we really look at AI as a strategic lever for our business, but we don't want to get distracted with everything that's shiny and new. So we're really purposeful about where we use AI in our business. And to be honest, we've actually consulted with our employees about this. I've spent a lot of time sitting with the teams from accounts to sales to HR to IT, just understanding their day-to-day workflows, understanding where they're bottlenecks, and talking to them about how AI could support them in their day-to-day. If AI could take away some of those mundane, repetitive tasks, actually what we're doing is we're driving efficiencies in our team so that they become more productive and therefore have more time to spend with customers and amplifying that customer experience to drive business outcomes. So we've got a lot of initiatives that we've deployed over the last few years, spanning from customer satisfaction, AI initiatives, to service prospecting, booking in MOTs, service reminders, etc. But in all honesty, we were really nervous, the senior management team and our employees, about the quality of the AI technology. Would we lose our family value feel? Would we lose our ability to deliver a great customer experience? And to be honest, the results have absolutely quashed any reservations that we've had. We have a virtual AI assistant. We lovingly name her Penelope. Let me tell you, she's the best employee in the business. She never gets sick, she never goes on holiday, she does what she's told to do. And I say that in jest, but the reality is that technology is consistent and reliant. It's delivering and handling a large set of data every single day. So before we close the doors today, that AI technology will contact in excess of 280 new customers and nurturing hundreds of other customer conversations to a point of conclusion. We're seeing results year to date, for example, like 270 vehicle sales coming to fruition as a result of AI either initiating and or nurturing those inquiries to an endpoint. And from a service perspective, over 1,700 service appointments invoiced as a result of that AI technology. So some really interesting results. It's still work in progress. And for us, actually, I think what's been really powerful is that we see AI as a tool, but it's best used when it's directed and steered by employee sentiment and how it could benefit them in their day-to-day.
And no doubt those results drive ownership, I'm sure, across your workforce, because it speaks by itself.
Yeah, of course.
Well done. Maybe, Tony, how would you leverage technology in your environment, and your views on AI as well?
I mean, so these days when we talk about technology, AI inevitably becomes the subject, isn't it? And just looking around the arena today, the amount of AI exhibitors, I think half the exhibitors are probably AI. So obviously it's something that's here with us and it's growing all the time. But artificial intelligence has its place, but actual intelligence still exists, and people buy from people, right? So humans need to remain interactive with their customers as much as possible. So my point of view would be that AI is there to complement the business and to assist the business. It shouldn't be there to replace the business, because, you know, especially when it comes to customer service, because it's the connection, it's that relationship that we form with our customers that hopefully encourages them to keep coming back. The connection won't be as strong with Penelope. She'll be there and she'll be reliable, but she's not going to get to know the customer details in a way that we would hopefully need to get to know. So I think, I'm all for AI, but as a complementary measure, certainly, for a small business like mine, at the moment, it needs to be on the sidelines, not at the heart or the center of the business. But it doesn't, one size doesn't fit all, does it? We all have different sized businesses, and as business leaders, hopefully we would understand more than anybody what our business needs, and that's when we should decide how much we want to use technology or not.
I think that's very well put. I do like your expression, actual intelligence, just reminding us of the importance of human interactions and not being oblivion of the trends of the massive opportunity AI brings us, but being also very cognizant that the human touch is critical. I go back to my little survey. If you look at the motors, I like it because it's thousands of consumers, so I think it was reflective of the sentiment. They reported that between 22 to 25, people willing to buy online moved from 14% to 18%, so progression. They also reported that 87% of all of the consumers want the showroom experience. So I think leveraging what you presented, Monique, to make sure there's scalability here to engage with the right customers and making sure we treat them, Tony, and give them the great service is probably what we can aspire to deliver. Shall we get your views, maybe Alex, from an OEM standpoint? And what are the tools that you're using maybe to directly impact customer experience? You're probably one step removed from the dealers in terms of direct engagement. So how do you go about it?
Well, firstly, I completely agree. You're right that the personal showroom interaction is still the most important part of the interaction. Technology will never replace it, but it can and should make that showroom interaction more efficient and more impactful. So what we focused on thinking about is how can we use technology to get information to the customer before they come and see us? If the customer has more knowledge about our products and about our cars when they walk in, it makes the process quicker and more efficient for the customer. So, as I mentioned before, we've had to think kind of quite ruthlessly about what we can achieve quickly and has the most impact. So we focused on things like quick start videos to put onto YouTube and our social channels so that people can watch a 10-minute video and understand a bit about our products before they come in. Things like e-brochures and stuff like that. All in mind with the fact that the customer journey no longer starts when customers just come into the showroom, it starts long before then. So we need to be interacting with them at that point and giving them information there and then. In terms of what we asked retailers to do, we asked them to send links to these videos and these brochures at the point of inquiry, before the appointment, after the appointment, and then before and after the handover as well. In the future, what we'd love to start looking at is how do we make that interaction between the digital and the physical seamless. And I think the main way to do that is to really understand exactly the journey the customer has been on in the digital space before they get into the showroom, so that when they walk into the showroom, we can pick up exactly where they left off digitally. So what I'd love to look to do in the future is try and get information to the retailers on exactly where that customer has been in terms of what pages on our website have they been on, what cars have they configured, have they given us finance details, so we're not going back to square one when the customer comes into the dealership. We're not there yet in terms of ability to look at that, but that's certainly what we want to get to quite soon.
Thank you very much. And we've touched on the evolution of technology and how we can use it as an enabler. Maybe, again, starting from the customer and the evolution of the customer, have you seen any evolution of behavior from generations to generations? Some of us may have seen different generations, so maybe less, but you've all worked in the industry for a bit more than a decade. Have you seen a shift in customer behavior, and how do you capture that evolution? Any of you would like to take it?
Sorry, say that again.
The evolution of the customer behaviors when they engage with you. Did you see an evolution over the years in the way they were engaging with the organizations over time?
Yeah, there's so many examples of it in terms of our customers are far more educated in terms of what they're looking to purchase. When they speak to us, they're far further down that purchase journey. They're more inclined to do those jobs in their own time and in their own space rather than doing it into the showroom. And also look at how we are as consumers. We've become very demanding as consumers and the expectation of what that should look like. So yeah, it's been changing all the way through, and that speed is growing. And look, we have to look outside of our industry and learn from those transactions and how easy they are, and go, right, how do we change that in our world?
Thank you, Jim. Any builds?
I guess, post-COVID, our sort of digital acceleration probably jumped about 7 years in terms of the technology that we use to kind of interact with customers more digitally. And I think that continues to evolve at a rapid pace. It'll be interesting to see what comes in the next few years, but I think you're right, customers are more demanding of us. They don't compare us just within the automotive trade in terms of our service levels. They're comparing us to Apple and Google in terms of our speed, our efficiency, and ease of doing business with us. So it's an interesting time.
So maybe as a little segue, from customer behaviors and their evolution to how you evolve your culture, how do you evolve your people's approach and your strategy. Tony, you gave us the bedrock of the success for Celtic Auto. Anything you would like to share as maybe some nuggets in terms of how you correlate your strategy to empowering your people, to driving the culture in the organization?
Yeah. So I mentioned empowerment earlier, so that's really, really important, because if a customer has a problem or has an inquiry, a query in any way, you want your team to be able to respond to that as quickly as possible, especially if there's a problem, because quite often problems can be nipped in the bud. And what we found was that by dealing with problems very, very quickly, they just weren't a problem anymore. It was solved very quickly. It becomes cheaper as well. The longer you allow a problem to fester, then inevitably the more expensive it becomes for you as a retailer to try and put it right. So once we don't roll over to every problem, what we try and do is look at the situation from a business point of view, but also morally from a customer point of view. Is the customer justified in raising their issue? And if so, just deal with it. That was kind of our philosophy. Just put it right. Even if it costs a few quid, just deal with it, sort it, customer goes away happy, and you've turned what is a potential negative then into a very strong positive going forward. So that was the culture we've really introduced amongst our team at all levels. They don't need to always come and see me or a manager. They can make that decision themselves. And they thrive on that, really. And my team, they won't get told off for making a wrong decision. They're more likely to be pulled up if they don't make a decision, in my business. So they very much, get things sorted as quickly as possible and move on to the next customer. That's the best way to do it.
Leading by example, clearly, Tony? Leading by example is yielding results?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, a lot of the bigger organizations, I think it's starting to change now, the culture, but there was a time, especially, late 80s, 90s, a lot of the bigger organizations started building a lot of offices. Managers were always in the offices, weren't they? You never see a manager. We've stripped all that away. We're very much in the heart of the business, in the showroom. For those who have got the bigger dealers and OEMs, don't let them dictate how you want to run your business. You know your customers better than they do. And, I prance around the dealership like a maitre d'. That's all I do all day. I just go to the customer, say hello, talk to them, make them a coffee, whatever it is. And they love it. And it's that connection that can differentiate yourself from other businesses. Because if they're bound to go to another dealership, and if they experience a sterile environment where everybody is scripted, then they'll notice that, and they'd rather the welcoming, homely kind of approach, I think, anyway. It seems to be working for us, so we'll stick to that strategy for now.
I've heard you make a mean latte, so I'll come and see.
We do, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And we don't charge either.
And it's a winning strategy. And maybe what you're describing here is empowered employees drive customer satisfaction, but maybe more broadly, happy employees, as we know, make happy customers. So how do you achieve that at scale, Jamie? 10,000 employees in Group 1, probably. How do you drive employee engagement with a lens of customer satisfaction?
It's always existed within Group 1, from being 8 sites to 100 plus sites now. The sites are in control of their businesses. And to your point of making the decision, the right decision for the customer, and managing that customer through that process and delivering that positive outcome for the customer. So it's our culture, it's what we do. I think to your point around the management piece, that's one of the greatest things about our businesses is that the management team are visible and accessible, and like I said earlier, around solving problems, putting solutions in place, that is about being with the teams and understanding. So it is supporting them. So our CEO, Daryl Kennan, presented at our conference earlier in this year and said around he is the support role. So when the CEO is the support role for the store, that kind of sets a line for everybody as much as anyone from a head office point of view or corporate point of view. Our job is to support the business. And that's the only thing. And if we're not doing that, then we have to question what we are doing.
I think it's nicely put. Management supporting people who are directly interacting with customers is key, and then happy employees transfer that to the clients. You shared, Monique, that you've introduced a lot of AI initiatives to supplement the performance of the employees within Vines. What is the strategy and the activity with the employee themselves, on that family-run business to make sure you retain those core values? What do you have in place?
Look, I think for us as a business, when you walk in through our doors, we have a business key phrase that we bound around the business. It's do what you said you would do. And essentially all that is saying to our employees is actually you'll build a currency of trust with your customers through fulfillment. Do what you said you would do. Be reliable, be consistent, and that will deliver a great customer experience. But there seems to be a bit of a common thread amongst us in the panel today. It's about actually just empowering employees to come on that journey with us and to make a difference. So for us, we've launched a few initiatives with our employees over the last few years. We've done things like biannual surveys and monthly focus groups, where the teams have a real opportunity to drive operational change. Now, they might be quite small, right? It might be as simple as our customers have a lot of dogs, and actually our showrooms aren't really dog friendly. Let's make it a little bit more welcoming. It's pouring with rain outside. Let's open the doors a little bit earlier so customers aren't standing out in the rain. And whilst that sounds really small, actually that has a massive impact on the showroom floor. So we get them really vested into driving those operational change in the business, and we believe heavily in investing in our employees. We focused a lot on our learning and development programs over the last few years to really empower the team to feel competent and confident in their day-to-day interactions with customers. So for us, it's about collaboration with our employees and helping them and helping us drive the change.
And I think we see here a common denominator, different scale, different flavor within those three dealership groups. Maybe, Alex, following a very intense phase of growth, very rapid expansion, are you moving into more planning, more training? How do you structure the employees' engagement?
We have 350 salespeople across our network, and they're pretty much all new starters. So the need for training is relentless, it's ongoing, it's constant, and it's completely vital. So the first thing we've done is make sure we have good training in place, and it's centered around those two things I mentioned earlier, explaining the brand and being really knowledgeable about the product. The second one for us is resource. Every single month we get more inquiries, we're taking more orders and doing more handovers. And we have conversations every day, and quite challenging conversations in some cases, with our retailers to making sure they're being really proactive in upping their resource to accommodate. Because if you don't do that, you don't respond to inquiries, you miss inquiries, you can't fulfill your promises, as you say. Customers don't get called back, or they have rushed handovers. So we're really trying to get people to think about the future and resource plan appropriately. The retailers in our network who have given the best customer experience and the most profitable are the ones who have grown their team in anticipation for an uptake in increase in inquiries, not as a result of it, we found.
Thank you. And maybe as we start to move towards the last chapter of our conversation, if you want to start thinking of any questions, we can be also quite flexible here. But let's focus also on the results, the outcomes, and the performance, which for us is about building long-term loyalty from our customers and building long-term value. So the way you approach this and the way you measure it, maybe as you were talking last, starting with you, Alex, yeah? How do you mentioned you're looking at mystery shopping activities sometimes. What is the approach and what are the measures in place to ensure that all of that strategy delivers what you want?
Well, you're right, yeah. I mean, mystery shopping in particular is geared more towards, obviously, the here and now experience, and CSI, I suppose, is kind of the same, but there are things you can do within those incentives to prioritise long-term retention. So within our mystery shopping program, for example, we incentivise the things I was just talking about. So have they explained the brand properly? Have they given a really detailed explanation of the product? And then with the CSI, we measure the same sort of thing. So although our measures really incentivize the here and now, if you do them properly, they will inevitably drive long-term retention as well.
Thank you. And Monique, you were talking about all of your achievements, but again, when we bring it at headlines, the Vines Group, top 10 performer in the BMW franchise for as long as we can remember. So these are clear performance. How do you measure them? What would you like to call out as
I guess for us, I think that's attributed to our people-first culture in our business. I've probably laboured the point a little bit today about collaborating with our employees and investing in their skill sets and competencies. And we're really proud. We're seeing an 86% employee retention rate year to date. So that's hopefully telling us we're doing a good job looking after our employees. And in truth, I think there's a direct correlation with that. Happy employees equals happy customers. We're seeing that in our manufacturer surveys, in our Google reviews. And for us, that feels like the best strategy to drive long-term retention for customers and employees alike.
So each of you have very specific measure embedded into your processes, embedding into the engagement with your employees to deliver on the vision and make sure you've got ongoing improvement of all of these activities. Mm-hmm. And maybe turning to you, Jamie, how do you ensure what you said, the flexibility that you see being the demand from the customers? How do you implement that? I know you have some initiatives around after sales, for example, providing more flexibility in the way customers can come and service their car. Could you talk to us a little bit how you implement that and what are the early wins?
Yeah, I talked earlier about the methodology that we've been using around simplicity within systems, and ultimately we're all hearing about the margin stretch and what that looks like. 10 years ago it was a 5% business, it's now 2.5, and that looks to be moving, and ultimately another driver comes out of doing more with less. So I think of all the things that's got to happen. So agency then means that the differentiator between us and another retailer is that customer experience. So we have to deliver that greater customer satisfaction. Electric cars, less moving parts, less revenue that's being driven for those. So ultimately we need more throughput. So more customer choice is one of those reasons. More flexibility, better part conversion, greater upsell, higher retention, greater transparency. These are all the things that we've got to do whilst retaining our cost base or reducing our cost base. We've all said that human interaction is the most important thing. It's what drives everything I've just mentioned. So you have to look at technology as one of those drivers to be able to deliver more. I kind of look at the stuff that we've done. Integrations is a significant piece that's helped that, but look at, we said around AI, that will help us a lot of those things, whether that's live agent, voice, text or chat, AI listening as an example, all of those things to drive that volume to deliver everything we need to, better customer satisfaction, more flexibility for customers, customer choice. That technology has to be an enabler for that.
It is, and it is. Thank you very much for bringing that to life. We've got about 5 minutes. Is anybody has any questions, observations? You want to join in? I think we have mics in the audience.
Hiya. You speak a lot about enforcing your customer journeys through human interaction and making sure people feel like they're talking to a person. So how do you feel that you've really hit the mark with an AI chatbot and making sure it feels not artificial and there's still human emotion behind it? What would you say was your biggest win or success with that?
I think it goes to you, Monique, given your presentation.
Well,
Thank
for
you.
us, I think it's about partnering with the right supplier, essentially. Getting feedback from your peers in the network about what technology might be best placed for your business. At the end of the day, actually, the technology out there has evolved over time. It used to feel really robotic, but actually, as we see it performing today in some of our suppliers, it feels like a real human. It's actively responding to customer inquiries and nurturing that customer conversation a lot further on than what it used to. So it's definitely evolving. I think you always have to have a human kind of spot checking what's going on, so that human element still remains at all time. But for me, my advice would just be to find a supplier that can demonstrate clear outcomes and that has got a positive reputation in the network, and see if it feels like it's the right choice for you.
Thank you, Monique. Very clear. Any other questions? Yeah, I think there's somebody at the front here.
In terms of customer review platforms, what would the panel recommend in terms of receiving the most reviews and the most quality reviews? Would it be something like Trustpilot or Google Reviews or anything else?
Well, from a manufacturer perspective, we obviously put in place a CSI provider. We use Reputation.com. They've been great for us, and the good thing about them is you're not relying solely on post-sales surveys for your feedback. There's a law in economics which says if you turn a measure into a goal, it ceases to become a good measure. And I think if you can only incentivize and reward and penalize the post-sales surveys, you encourage the kind of behavior like gamification and manipulation and stuff like that. Online reviews are much harder to manipulate and give you an honest opinion, and then you can use the post-sales surveys as purely a diagnostic tool that is authentic, isn't manufactured, and gives you real insight where you can dig into the reasons behind it. That way we do that, we can focus on the input measures and the behavior that drives satisfaction rather than chasing a number on the back of it.
Thanks, Alex. We've got time for one more, if anyone wants to join. Yes, no?